Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, starring Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Michael Rooker, Karen Gillan, Pom Klementieff, sorry if I said that wrong, Sylvester Stallone, and Kurt Russell, and directed by James Gunn. Now let's just get into this before I get started. I remember seeing this in IMAX 3D and the El Capitan Theater, and I remember that the screen will go back and forth when I saw it on IMAX, from like Dark Knight size to the regular aspect ratio. So let's get into it. I love the fact that we go back to 1980 in Missouri, where we see Meredith Quill as well as Ego, played by Kurt Russell, who's from his own planet Ego. And we push forward to 34 years later. We go to the Sovereign and meet back with Star-Lord, aka Peter Quill, returned by Chris Pratt, Gamora, returned by Zoe Saldana, Drax the Destroyer, returned by Dave Bautista, Rocket Raccoon, returned by Bradley Cooper, and Baby Groot, voice returned by Vin Diesel. Fighting off against the giant monster with Toons, and Drax gets eaten by the giant monster, and they get Gamora to slice its neck open, and that was an awesome fight to protect Annulex batteries. And we get introduced to Aisha, played by Elizabeth Debicki, which welcome back from Cloverfield, by the way. And I love the set decoration of their palace as far as the character goes. She's great, golden looking. Like, what a fantastic makeup job. Speaking of which, Nebula is back and returned by Karen Gillan, who I fell in love with in this movie and in Jumanji, and I have become a fan of Karen Gillan these days, even if there's movies of hers I don't like Oculus, for example. Drax is laughing too much in this movie for some reasons I don't fully understand, except they're trying to go for comedy, and I should put my hand up right now. This isn't as funny as the first Guardians of the Galaxy. After the Guardians get attacked by the fighters, we land on Bernhardt, and the Guardians crash land the ship, and Eagle comes out, and Mantis, played by Pom Klementieff. Then we move on to Contraxia, and we get another Howard the Frickin' Duck cameo, as well as Yondu, returned by Michael Rooker, and we get introduced to Stacker Ogard, played by Sylvester Stallone. What are you doing in here in a Marvel movie? As well as a traitorous wannabe Captain Taserface, which that name is hilarious to me. And we go back to Bernhardt, and they talk about how Ego is Peter Quill's father, and which I'll get into later in the film. I love Mantis for the way she's figuring out human jokes, or joking around is about, and she has good comedic timing in this movie. She's just great. I love the scene when Mantis tells everybody about Peter having a crush on Gamora, and Drax, and she felt Drax's laughter. That may be the best scene in the trailer or in this movie. It was so funny. When Rocket makes people fly by the campsite, I thought to myself, that looks like a lot of fun. And that was a great raccoon action sequence until Rocket almost gets killed by Yondu Zero. And I love the way Michael Rooker comes in to confront Rocket. It was a great Western movie until Nebula shoots Yondu and Rocket to stun. And I love the way Karen Gillan says, "Hello, boys." It makes me fall in love with her. I love the production design on Eagle's planet, on his palace, and it's super gorgeous. And it was beautiful looking like Asgard in the first Thor film. I love how Rocket makes fun of Taserface, and the way he's laughing at it was absolutely hysterical. Same with the lady of the Sovereign laughing at the name later was hilarious too. When Yondu and Rocket escape after Baby Groot was picked on by Taserface's men, the escape of Yondu and Rocket and Baby Groot, and they get to Eagle's planet after the funny faces and the Stan Lee cameo where he talks about his life on Earth. and that was clever and amusing. Gamora and Nebula go another round, so Nebula wins to tell Gamora how much she wanted a sister, which was very heartbreaking, and it's good to show emotion in this movie. Like, it broke Eagle's heart to put a tumor in Meredith Quill so Peter can fight his father to avenge his mother, and isn't really his daddy, which we'll get that great line by Yondu later in the film. So the Guardians with Yondu, Nebula, and Mantis fight Ego and his brain off to destroy his planet, and just the way those actors played the scene off was a lot of fun, and the Silverine ships shoot them while trying to destroy Eagle's brain and planet, and they get Baby Groot to put on the timer for 5 minutes before the explosive explodes, and Yondu and Nebula blow up the Silverine ships, and the Guardians team up with Mantis, Nebula, and Yondu, and I love Yondu's line, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!" And I'll get to that series this Christmas if iTunes has the first one, which I'll see if I can do that on my own time. Meanwhile, Peter and Yondu with Rocket fights Ego and Gamora and Nebula. Act like sisters working together, and Drax and get Mantis off the planet on a ship, and Baby Groot plants the explosive in his brain and pushes the right button and runs out of with the Guardians and Mantis and Nebula. Unfortunately, Yondu dies, which is a powerful moment of the film as well as a good ton of fun. The powerful message for the end of this movie is fathers and sons, and that is the name of a song too, by the way. Love for each other. And Yondu's death was sad. All of the spacemen, including Stacker, Ogord, as well as Michelle Yeoh and Ving Rhames, and I like those cameos, and especially Ving Rhames, who I'm a big fan of. There's 5 different after-credit scenes. The first one is a guy, Kraglin, who's played by Sean Gunn, and I didn't talk about him throughout the movie because I didn't think it was that important, is taking over Yondu's arrow after his death practices, the whistle arrow, which was funny in its own term. The second is Sly Stallone, Ving Rhames, and Michelle Yeoh get together as some other creatures from space, and that scene was worthless. Third was Aisha creating a robot called Adam, which will set up for Volume 3, and I did like that one the best. The fourth one was introducing Groot in his teenage years, which we will see in Avengers Infinity War. So I like that one as second best for that reason. We'll also see he hates Peter Quill in this scene, and the last one, number 5, by the way, was another pointless scene with Stan Lee never getting out of the planet, and as he was talking about to some space aliens. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.6 out of 10. The movie has a great production design and set decoration, and this isn't as good as the original film. And I like the message of fathers and sons, and this action is fun like the first movie, and I can't wait to see them in Avengers Infinity War. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next week I will be back with Spider-Man Homecoming, returning to Spider-Man, by the way. Sorry it took me so long. And until next time, Avengers Assemble!